March 17, 1943. Turpit Sufa, 76-78, Berlin. The folder hit the mahogany desk so hard that coffee splashed from Admiral Wilhelm Canaris's porcelain cup, staining intelligence reports that would have meant execution if the Gestapo had found them. Impossible. The Americans are giving us propaganda through turned agents. Through the tall windows of Abare headquarters, Canaris could see the Landvar Canal, where Rosa Luxemburg's body had been dumped 24 years before. Now, as chief of German military intelligence, he held in his shaking hands a report that challenged not only Nazi propaganda, but the entire mathematical foundation of German victory. According to intercepted communications and reports from agents still working in Mexico City, the Ford Motor Company's Willow Run plant was making one B-24 Liberator bomber every hour. The B-24 Liberator had 1.5 million individual parts, 450,000 rivets, 30,000 separate components, all assembled into an 18-ton aircraft. Rolling off an assembly line faster than Germany could produce a simple Kubalwagen military vehicle. Major Friedrich Wilhelm Heinz, standing at attention in front of Canaris's desk, had triple-checked the intelligence. The numbers stayed the same. What neither man knew was that this moment would start the most devastating intelligence failure in modern warfare. The systematic inability of German intelligence to understand, believe, or clearly communicate the real size of American industrial power to the Nazi leaders, dooming the Third Reich because of a fatal miscalculation of mathematical certainty. The collapse of German intelligence about American production had started 2 years earlier. In 1941, Luftwaffe General Karl Kohler had given Hermann Göring reports from military attaché General Friedrich von Ischer in Washington, saying that American aircraft production was getting close to 2,000 planes per month. Göring had laughed, really laughed, saying Americans could only build refrigerators and razor blades, not military airplanes. The Americans are bluffing, Göring had told Hitler at the Wolf Schanze in December 1941, 4 days after Pearl Harbor. Their democracy makes them weak. Their mixed population makes them inefficient. Their Jews make them corrupt. They cannot possibly make what they claim. By March 1943, German intelligence networks across the Americas were reporting something that went against every Nazi idea about race and economics. The reports came from different sources: Mexican industrialists who liked Germany, Spanish diplomats, Swedish businessmen traveling through Detroit, even intercepted letters from American workers to relatives in neutral countries. They all said the same impossible thing: Ford's Willow Run plant alone was making more heavy bombers than all of Germany's aircraft factories put together. Oberstleutenant Nicholas Ritter, head of AB's Air Intelligence Section under Furl Luft, had spent 3 weeks checking the data. A former Lufthansa pilot who had lived in America for 10 years before the war, Ritter understood American industrial capacity better than most German officers. His apartment in Manhattan during the 1920s had looked out over the building of the Chrysler Building. He had watched Americans build the world's tallest building in less than 2 years. Herr Admiral Ritter reported to Canaris, "If these numbers are correct, and I believe they are, then Germany has already lost the war. Now it is only a question of math and time." The intelligence came through secret channels, each more dangerous than the last. Georg Nicholas, running AB's main network in Mexico City, had developed sources among American businessmen who traveled freely between Detroit and Mexico's oil fields. These men spoke casually about amazing things they saw, not knowing their dinner conversations were being written down by German agents. On February 3, 1943, American oil executive Harold Morrison went to a reception at the German-Mexican Commerce Association in Mexico City. After several tequilas, Morrison began talking about his recent tour of the Willow Run facility, arranged by Ford to show potential investors how the company could meet government contracts. "Gentlemen," Morrison said, not knowing that Wolfgang Blau, a German agent pretending to be an Argentine leather merchant, was remembering every word. "What I saw is impossible to describe. The assembly line is over a mile long. The building is so huge that clouds form inside it, and it sometimes rains in the factory. They have 42,000 workers, including thousands of women, black women, building the most complicated machine ever made. Morrison pulled out a pencil and started drawing on a napkin. The bomber has 2 bomb bays, each holding 4,000 pounds of bombs, 4 engines, each with 1,200 horsepower. They build them in sections, sub-assemblies, Ford calls them, that come together like rivers flowing into the sea. Wing sections come from one direction, fuselages from another, tail assemblies from a third. They meet at exact points along the line. Blam asked, trying to sound casually interested. But surely such complexity causes frequent breakdowns and production delays? Morrison laughed. That's what people at Consolidated Aircraft thought. They made fun of Ford, saying, "You can't build planes like cars." But Ford broke the bomber into 60,000 separate jobs. Each worker does the same task over and over. A woman who was making breakfast for her children yesterday now installs hydraulic lines in the tail section. They train workers in days, not months. Maybe the most detailed intelligence came through Francisco Franco's Spain. Colonel José Ungría, Spanish military attaché in Washington, kept close relationships with American aircraft makers while secretly giving intelligence to Germany in exchange for tungsten shipments that Spain needed for its industry. In March 1943, Ungría went to a reception at the Argentine embassy where he met Charles Sorensen, Ford's production chief and the main planner of Willow Run. Sorensen, thinking he was talking to a representative of a neutral country that might buy planes after the war, spoke openly about the plant's capabilities. Colonel Sorensen said, not knowing that every word would be in Berlin within 2 weeks, "When I first visited Consolidated's San Diego plant in 1940, they were building B-24s outdoors in the sunshine, each one different from the last, taking 180,000 man-hours per plane. I knew we could do better." Ungría asked for more details, saying he was interested as a military engineer. Sorensen, proud of what he had done, explained, "I spent one night in my hotel room in San Diego drawing the entire production flow. We would build bombers like we build cars, not by having workers swarm over a plane that does not move, but by moving the plane past workers who stay in one place. Each worker would do specific tasks over and over, getting very good through repetition." The Spaniard asked about the problems of managing such a complex workforce. "We built an apprentice school that trains 8,000 workers every week," Sorensen replied. "Women make up 40% of our workforce. They are actually better at detailed work, with smaller hands for tight spaces and more patience for repetitive tasks. We have black workers running advanced machinery. We have boys as young as 16 managing supply logistics. A democracy works best when you use all human resources available." Through Swedish, Argentine, Japanese, and Turkish channels, German intelligence got repeated reports confirming Willow Run's production rate. Swedish engineer Erik Lundberg visited the plant in March 1943 and reported, "The plant runs with efficiency that Europeans cannot understand. They use 1,600 special machines, many made for just one job. The investment is huge, maybe $200 million just for the tools." Japanese commander Toshikazu Omi sent a coded message to Tokyo, which German intelligence intercepted, giving independent proof. This one factory made more planes every month than all of Japan's aviation industry. By April 1943, German intelligence had gathered full data from 17 independent sources, confirming the production rate. The numbers were incredible. Willow Run alone was making 650 B-24s every month at peak, and all of America's B-24 production was over 1,400 each month. Desperate to see the truth, Canaris approved Operation Pastorius, sending saboteurs into the United States by submarine. George John Dash, the leader of one of the 2 four-man teams, had lived in America for 20 years before going back to Germany in 1939. His secret orders from Canaris were to gather information on aircraft production before doing any sabotage missions. In the early morning hours of June 13, 1942, Dash's team landed at Amagansett, Long Island, coming ashore from U-202 just after midnight. Within a few days, tormented by what his mission meant and what he already knew about American production, Dash gave himself up to the FBI. During his questioning, Dash revealed something that shocked his American captors. Canaris himself told me that Berlin does not believe your production numbers. They think Willow Run is just propaganda. He wanted photographs, employee counts, shipping records, proof that would make Göring face reality. FBI Special Agent Charles Landman asked in disbelief, "They don't believe we are making a bomber an hour?" Dash laughed bitterly. "Agent Landman, I lived here. I've seen your car factories. I tried to tell them that if Ford could make a car every minute before the war, they could surely make a bomber every hour during it. They accused me of being a defeatist." On April 20, 1943, Hitler's 54th birthday, Canaris personally showed the intelligence to Göring at Karen Hall, the Reich Marshal's flashy hunting estate north of Berlin. The meeting would become famous among German intelligence officers because of Göring's total rejection of reality. Canaris brought photographs, intercepted documents, and reports from dozens of sources. He spread them across Göring's huge oak table like a dealer showing cards that would lose the game. "Herr Reich Marshal," Canaris began carefully, "we have confirmation from 17 independent sources. The Ford Willow Run plant is making one B24 Liberator every hour at peak production. They have kept this rate consistently since January." Göring, weighing over 200 Liberators by this point in the war, picked up one of the photographs showing the assembly line stretching into the distance. Canaris Göring said with contempt, "Do you take me for a fool? These are obviously wooden mock-ups, props for propaganda. The Americans want us to believe they can build aircraft like sausages. This Willow Run plant probably produces 50 bombers monthly at most." Canaris pulled out another document, an intercepted manifest from the Pennsylvania Railroad, showing aluminum shipments. "Here, Reich Marshal. They are consuming 16 million pounds of aluminum monthly at this one plant. That is more than our entire monthly production." Göring laughed harshly. "Then where do they get this aluminum? From their black workers, from their women, riveters, Canaris. You have been deceived by American propaganda." A week later, Canaris was summoned to the Wolfschanze to brief Hitler personally. The meeting included Generals Jodl and Kittel and Propaganda Minister Joseph. Goebbels Hitler, studying maps of the Eastern Front, where the Wehrmacht was preparing for Operation Citadel, the Battle of Kursk, listened impatiently as Canaris presented the intelligence Mein Führer. Canaris said, knowing he was risking his life, "If the Americans are producing 1,400 B-24s monthly, plus equal numbers of B-17, plus their fighter aircraft, plus British production, the aerial bombardment of the Reich will soon exceed our defensive capabilities." Hitler's response was characteristic. "Admiral, the Americans are capable of mass production of simple goods, automobiles, refrigerators, but a bomber is not a car. It requires precision skill dedication. When it took us 6 years to prepare for war, they claimed to have achieved this in 16 months. It is impossible." General Jodl studied Canaris' figures and made a calculation. "Even if we accept 1/4 of these figures as accurate, the figures are false." Hitler interrupted. The Americans entered the war in December 1941. Building this miraculous factory and achieving this production in such time is impossible. Unknown to Nazi leadership, Canaris had obtained film footage of Willow Run in operation through American intelligence contacts in Switzerland. The film smuggled via Spanish diplomatic. Pouches showed 5 minutes of the assembly line in full Operation Canaris, and his deputy Hans Oster watched the film in a locked room in Abwehr headquarters. The camera traveled along the entire mile-long assembly line, B-24s in every stage of construction moved past at a steady pace. Workers, men, women, black-white, performed tasks with mechanical precision. A clock visible in several shots confirmed the timing. My God, Oster whispered, "It's true." Canaris lit the film with his cigarette lighter, watching it burn. "We cannot show this to them. They would accuse us of creating fake footage or being traitors." In November 1943, German intelligence obtained aerial photographs of Willow Run, taken by a Spanish diplomat. Photo analysts spent weeks studying the images. Their conclusions: parking lots contained approximately 12,000 cars, indicating 3-shift operations completed. B-24s visible at adjacent airfield. 47 aircraft ready for delivery. Assembly line visible through skylights, aircrafts. Spaced exactly as reported, rail sidings showed dozens of freight cars delivering materials. Hedman Vernard wrote, "Photographic evidence confirms human intelligence. Production rate appears accurate. Recommend immediate strategic reassessment." Göring, shown the photographs, dismissed them as clever American photographic manipulation, probably using scale models. Dr. Albert Speer, Hitler's armaments minister, and the only Nazi leader with real understanding of industrial production, secretly obtained. The American intelligence. His diary entry for May 15, 1943, discovered after the war, shows his despair. If the Willow Run figures are even half accurate, we face not defeat, but annihilation. They produce more aircraft in a month than we do in a year, but I cannot speak this truth. To do so would be my death warrant. Dr. Otto Ohlendorf, head of SD Inland, and a trained economist, studied American economic data. His report to Himmler in December 1943 was very clear. The Ford Motor Company's peacetime production in 1941 was 1 million vehicles. They have changed this capacity to bomber production at current rates. By June 1944, the Americans will have made enough B-24s alone to drop our entire 1940 London bombing tonnage every single day. On Christmas Eve 1943, Canaris got intelligence showing American production projections for 1944 B-24 Liberators, 18,000 B-17 Flying Fortresses, 12,200 B-29 Super Fortresses, 1,200 fighter aircraft, 40,200, total 86,200 aircraft. Hitler's response when he saw these numbers: "The Americans say they will make more aircraft in 1944 than all nations have ever made in all of history." It's absurd. By February 1944, Canaris was removed from his position, suspected of defeatism and treason. His replacement, Walter Schellenberg, was a Nazi loyalist who would not dare contradict Hitler or Göring, but reality could not be ignored forever. On February 20, 1944, Big Week, the American 8th Air Force launched Operation Argument, sending over 1,000 heavy bombers against German aircraft factories. In 6 days, they dropped more bomb tonnage than the Luftwaffe had dropped on Britain during the entire Blitz. Luftwaffe fighter pilot Adolf Galland told Göring Herr Reich Marshal, "I have counted over 800 bombers in a single formation. These planes are real, and they are dropping real bombs." On June 6, 1944, over 11,000 Allied aircraft appeared over France. The Luftwaffe could gather fewer than 300 fighters in response. Feldmarschall Hugo Speer sent a desperate message to Berlin: "The enemy's aerial superiority is absolute. Our intelligence was correct. We were deceived not by the Americans, but by ourselves." By April 1944, Willow Run reached its peak production that month. Employees in 2 9-hour shifts working 6 days a week, made 453 airplanes in 468 hours, a production rate equal to one finished B-24 Liberator every 63 minutes. The plant had 331 workers, including 11,000 women, 26% of the workforce, 3,800 African Americans, 9% of the workforce, 200 disabled workers, 3% of the workforce. This mix of workers would have completely destroyed Nazi racial ideas. The so-called inferior races and weaker groups were making more planes than the German master race by a huge margin. After the war, surviving German intelligence officers revealed the full scope of the failure. Walter Schellenberg testified at Nuremberg. We knew the truth about American production by early 1943. Every professional intelligence officer knew the numbers were right, but to report this truth was to risk being executed for defeatism. Hans-Bern Gisevius wrote in his memoirs, "The tragedy was not that we lacked intelligence about American production, we were drowning in it. The tragedy was that our leaders refused to believe it because it went against their racial ideas." The German intelligence officers who tried to report the truth paid a heavy price. Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, executed April 9, 1945, at Flossenburg concentration camp. Hans Oster, executed April 9, 1945, at Flossenburg concentration camp. Alexis von Rohen, executed October 1944, for taking part in the July 20th plot. Hans-Bern Gavius escaped to Switzerland and survived the war. The United States Strategic Bombing Survey confirmed what German intelligence had reported. Willow Run made 86-85 B-24s between 1942 and 1945. Peak production was 650 planes every month. The hourly rate was kept up for months. Total cost per plane dropped from $23,800 to $13,700. Albert Speer, in post-war questioning, was asked why Germany did not believe the intelligence about American production. To accept that Ford could make a bomber every hour was to accept that our whole worldview was wrong, that democracy was not weak but strong, that racial mixing did not make weakness, but strength, that women could do men's work. It would mean accepting that we had started a war we could never win. Who would tell Hitler that Rose will Monroe? The real-life inspiration for Rosie. The Riveter used a rivet gun on the B-24 production line. She and thousands of women like her had never worked in factories before Pearl Harbor. We knew we were building something important. Monroe said in a 1984 interview, "Every rivet we drove was going to help end the war. We worked double shifts, sometimes sleeping in the parking lot between shifts. We had brothers, husbands, sweethearts flying these planes." The failure to believe intelligence about Willow Run had terrible consequences. Fighter production. Germany kept making bombers until late 1944. Resource allocation. Resources wasted on wonder weapons instead of practical defenses. Strategic planning. Operations planned for facing hundreds of bombers, not thousands. Diplomatic failures. Peace offers delayed because leaders did not understand certain defeat. German economists studying captured documents realized the true scale. Willow Run cost $200 million. Germany's entire aircraft industry investment from 1933 to 1945 was $400 million, equivalent Willow Run floor. Space, 5 million square feet. All German aircraft factories together, 8 million square feet. Willow Run electrical use, 5 million kilowatts every month. The Americans had built one factory using more resources than entire German cities. The final Spies, accounting by the end of the war, showed the full scale. Total B-24s produced 188. Willow Run made 685. Total B-17s produced 12. 731. Total American aircraft made from 1940 to 1945, 33, 7-117. Total German aircraft made from 1940 to 1945, 94 done, 700. The United States made two times more aircraft than Germany, while fighting a two-ocean war. Historians call the German intelligence failure about American production one of the most important in military history. It was not a failure of gathering information. German agents got accurate, detailed intelligence. It was a failure of belief. Leaders refused to believe intelligence that went against their worldview. Dr. Gerd Weinberg concluded German intelligence correctly estimated American production capacity. By early 1943, if this intelligence had been believed and acted on, Germany might have tried for peace 2 years earlier, saving millions of lives. The story gives important lessons. Cognitive bias. Accurate intelligence can be rejected if it goes against core beliefs. Ideological blindness. Political ideas can be stronger than mathematical reality. Systemic failure. Intelligence systems punish unwelcome truth and reward comfortable lies. Fatal miscalculation. Underestimating opponents leads to terrible mistakes. At the 1985 opening of the Yankee Air Museum at Willow Run, former Rosie the Riveter, Rose Will Monroe met former Luftwaffe pilot Hans Rudel. Rudel asked, "How did you build so many?" "So fast," Monroe answered. "Honey, we just went to work every day and did our job. Nothing fancy. Just punch in, build bombers. Punch out. Democracy is not complicated. It's just free people doing their best." Rudel replied, "We were told democracy made you weak, that your diversity made you inefficient. We were told lies, and those lies killed millions." In the ruins of Berlin, May 1945, American intelligence officers found a final German intelligence report on Willow Run, dated April 20, 1945. Hitler's last birthday. Willow Run production confirmed. We reported this truth 2 years ago. We were not believed. Germany dies, not from lack of intelligence, but from lack of wisdom to believe intelligence that goes against what we wish to be true. Let future generations learn. Reality does not bend to ideology. Mathematics does not yield to mythology. Truth ignored becomes tragedy. The report was never delivered. By then, Hitler was in his bunker. The 1,000-year Reich had days to live, and thousands of American bombers, many made at Willow Run, delivered the final argument German intelligence had tried to make 2 years earlier. The verdict of history is clear. German intelligence was excellent. German intelligence acceptance was catastrophic. In that failure to believe uncomfortable truths lies a warning for all nations. Reality does not care what you believe. Those who deny reality in favor of ideology will eventually be destroyed by it. Willow Run built more than bombers. It built proof that democracy works, that diversity strengthens, that freedom produces. German spies counted them all. German leaders believed none. And that disbelief killed the Third Reich as surely as any bomb.